All right, I am Destin. This is Matt. This is No Dumb Questions. How's that for a stiff intro, Matt? Do you like that?
Oh, I liked it. You said we were going to get down to business today, and you are all business. What do you got?
Super business. Okay, I want to talk to you today about a thing I've been doing with some friends at church. We've started a book club. Like, it's a little book club. Have you ever done a book club?
I mean, here on this podcast, but other than that, I don't know. Does college count? No, I don't think so.
Okay. Have you heard of any famous book clubs back in the day? Like, there's one in particular I'm sure you've heard of. I think it's a book club. It's like a gathering of people. Over in England. Am I ringing a bell? One guy.
Are you talking about the Inklings?
Yeah, exactly. Tell me about the Inklings.
Well, I only knew of there being two guys and them giving it a nickname for that, but it's Lewis and Tolkien, comparing their writing and dreaming about stuff. I mean, they, like me and my friends, just get together for lunch all the time at the Eagle and Child Pub, I think was the name of it, in Oxford.
The Bird and the Baby. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and they would just sit there and think about things and influence each other's work and give critical feedback and things like that. Is that the kind of deal you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly. So I just looked it up here. There were a lot of people in the Inklings that kind of came in and out. It was a big literary club, and they would meet and they would discuss works of art and literature and all this kind of stuff. Well, I think mostly literature. They met there at the pub, and I took the pilgrimage. Like, I went to the Kilns, which is C.S. Lewis's home, and I went and I had fish and chips and a pint at the Bird and the Baby, the Eagle and Child there. And it's my understanding.
I have as well.
Yeah, you've done it? It's great.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And so I just love the idea of a group of guys or peers, if you're a lady, a group of ladies getting together and just having deep discussions about a book that you enjoy together. I've heard of another group like this. There's a science fiction author named Lester Del Rey. Have you ever heard of Lester Del Rey? He's kind of not... I would not expect.
I've heard of Lana Del Rey. I don't know, any relation?
I don't know.
I'm doing my best.
So, Lester Del Rey was like one of the fathers of modern science fiction. He wrote this very interesting book back in the day called The Runaway Robot that my dad read to me as a child, and then I read it to my children. And I have been known to mail this book to other children that I think are into space books and stuff like that. So, The Runaway Robot.
When did it come out?
It's in the, I want to say the 50s or something like that. I'm going to look it up. The Runaway Robot, Lester Del Rey. It came out, it says 1966. It wasn't quite as old as I thought. It's a really, really good book, though. Super influential. My point is, I think books are awesome. Lester Del Rey was in a book club, and they had a really cool name. They called theirs the Trapdoor Spider Club. That was the name. Isn't that cool? Okay. The Trapdoor Spiders.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, both of those names are cool.
I want to workshop something briefly with you. This group of guys that we do the book club with at church, we have a very, very lame name that I'm too embarrassed to even say in a microphone, so I'm not going to. It's awful.
No, you have to say it.
No, I don't. I don't have to say it. It's that bad.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Well,
Matt, I want to do we're going to do an episode on my book club, and I'm not telling you the name. Seriously? I'll tell you the name of my club.
I will tell you the name if you promise to make fun of me. So.
Oh, I don't know if I can do that.
Yeah, I know.
Wait, I think I'll be able to muster it.
Okay, so basically, we've done a couple of different things on the text thread. The current name on this thing is so embarrassing. It's the Big Brain Conversation Club. I hate it so bad.
No.
I hate it so bad. It's the worst.
Oh, no.
And
okay. No, let me just try to help you out. Let me workshop some ideas to just refine it a little bit.
I just want
it in the same vein.
I just want to say that.
What about the mega genius thinker club of the best people ever? What do you think?
So socially bright and aware of things. I hate it, man. It was a joke. Somebody put it on the text thread as a joke, and it's bothering me very, very much.
You need to fix that quickly.
We need
to be ashamed.
So, third chair, in the Patreon comments, could you please offer some suggestions for number one, a less pretentious name. Number two, a less arrogant name. And number three, it's just something fun. Like the Trapdoor Spiders is a really cool name. The Inklings, that's a cool name. We need something. We need it bad. So we need to get a better name.
The Inklings is better than Trapdoor Spiders. Inklings is just, it's so refined. It's brilliant.
It's amazing.
You're right. You do need help. I don't know how this happens, man. You're a humble man, but you keep finding yourselves in these organizations that have these ridiculous names. Like that thing you did a while back early in your career that was called like the League of Genius Adventurers or whatever.
What are you talking about?
You guys got to remember you did some kind of thing with a couple other educational YouTube guys.
Random Acts of Intelligence. This is the dumbest name.
Yes, that was it.
I'm so sorry for all the things that I've done poorly in my life. These are chief among them.
To make fun of you. You brought this upon yourself.
That's right. So anyway, we need a better name. But what I will say is this club, we've only met a few times, but this club is making my life better. It's making me, like, as iron sharpens iron, when you're sitting around with other people that have different life experience than you, it's really, really fun to bounce ideas and disagree in a safe place. Not safe place in like the modern term safe place, but like, hey, I have trust with this person. I'm going to disagree with them. And they're going to tell me why they disagree, and we're gonna try to get to truth. It doesn't really matter who's right. We're just trying to get to truth.
Sure, you're playing idea ball.
Yeah.
Here's where it's different than the modern notion of safe space. That term means you are going to be protected and coddled, whereas idea ball means it's a safe space to be ruthless toward ideas and really use our processors, our brains together to work through difficult ideas. But here's my question for you. Why do you need a book to do that? Why can't you just get together and talk about whatever?
That's a great question. And I think it gives structure, and it also allows us to engage in deep thought with complex ideas that are external from our own minds. And then we all engage and bat that around in our minds. And then we come together and we meet, and then we talk about it. I think it's just a really good primer. And we can reject things like, the author said this, I don't really get that. Or we had a book a while back that I didn't even read the book. I was like, this is too deep for me. And that's kind of on the, oh goodness, what was it called?
Was it The Pokey Little Puppy?
It was The Pokey Little Puppy. No, it was Pigeon Gets a Dog or Hot Dog or whatever it is you wanted to say. It was a theology book, but it was very, very deep. And it was frankly over my head. And so I started the audiobook, and I was like, I'm just going to be real with myself. I can't get through 8 hours of this. I just told them, I was like, hey guys, I'm going to show up for the discussion. Just understand I didn't read this because I'm frankly not smart enough to understand it at this point. It was really cool because that meeting of the club ended up being 3 guys around a table answering my dumb questions. And so it was great. The book that I want to talk to you about is in my hand right here. And it's the last book that we did. And I did not see this coming. I didn't see that this book would change me the way it has. I want to tell you about it. And I want to encourage you to consider reading it. I think it's going to be fun for you to just kind of receive this as I experienced it without you having to go read the book. But I would encourage you to read it.
Okay.
The book is called Van Gogh Has a Broken Heart by Russ Ramsey. Have you heard of this book at all?
Nope. Haven't heard of the author. Haven't heard of the book. Have heard of Van Gogh.
Okay. That's where I was. They're like, hey, we're going to do this book. And the guy that's leading the group, he's like, yeah, we're going to do this for these reasons. And apparently he made another book he wrote another book called Rembrandt is in the Wind or something like that.
Okay. I'm seeing the pattern.
Are you aware of this piece of art that was stolen and that hasn't been recovered?
From Boston.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I am. My buddy Jeff Foote, who edits my podcast and who I tinker with music with, and he himself is an excellent composer. He wrote a whole song about that art theft. I think it's called The Art Thieves, and it's wonderful. It's on his last album.
Yeah, there was this painting in Boston, a very special museum. Maybe we just delay that for another day. Let's table that because that's a whole rabbit hole that we could go through. But now I know what the book by Russ Ramsey
is about. Rembrandt is in the Wind. Got it.
Yeah. Well, that was the first book. We didn't read that one. I'm going to go back and read that one. The one we read is Van Gogh Has a Broken Heart. Let me just start with this. What do you know about Van Gogh? When you hear the title of the book, Van Gogh Has a Broken Heart, and you think about Van Gogh, what incident immediately comes to mind?
Yeah, 19th century Dutch impressionist, famous for Starry Night and the self-portrait. He died impoverished. He became famous and his works became worth something after he died. And there's a story, I don't know if it's true, that he had some crush, some lady who he loved. And the story I've heard is that the reason his self-portrait has a patch over his ear is because he cut it off and sent it to her, which I don't think enchants women. And I don't even know if it's true. That's just the legend I remember hearing.
Yeah. Oftentimes you'll go to a museum and there'll be Van Gogh stuff, and you'll go to the shop at the museum and you'll see a painting of Van Gogh or something. You see a postcard, or they kind of make jokes about the ear. I was in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I went to a French bakery and I got some great coffee, and they had a really good tart. It was just a really good tart with fruit on top, and the whole theme was France and art in France. And they had a picture of Van Gogh on the wall, and he had an actual gauze patch over the ear, like on the painting. What are your thoughts about that?
Wait, so they took an actual, like, from the medical kit, and they just stuck gauze on the painting themselves?
Yeah, it was like a print of the art that is Van Gogh, the self-portrait, and they had actual gauze on the painting, and it was just hanging there in the coffee shop. What are your thoughts about that?
It's pretentious. To me, that doesn't sound like it's particularly additive. I mean, it's better than Hobby Lobby art, but to me, that sounds like we just did something to riff on it, and I appreciate the effort, but it doesn't move the needle for me. That's kind of my feeling on it.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing because the author here, Russ Ramsey, talks about the way we relate to artists. The book, Van Gogh Has a Broken Heart, taught me how to consume art. The subtitle here is What Art Teaches Us About the Wonder and Struggle of Being Alive. I'm just going to read the first two paragraphs to you and just kind of explain. This kind of sets the stage for the whole thing. It starts like this.
Destin, I'm all ears.
Shut up. Shut up. Oh, gosh. All right, so it goes like this. I call him Vincent. I have ever since I was a teenager. It's hard not to. My high school art teacher taught us to love art by loving art in front of us. She had her favorites, Georgia O'Keeffe, Frank Lloyd Wright, Edward Hopper, and especially Vincent Van Gogh. For her, O'Keeffe was O'Keeffe and Hopper was Hopper, but Van Gogh was Vincent, always Vincent. Like he was more than one of her favorite painters. He was a person in her life, a friend. This book goes through a lot of artists and interesting events that happen in the artist's life and explains where they were in their life when they painted certain works. It's fascinating. One of the things it told me to do is said that there's this whole chapter where he recommends a way to consume art. He says, like, he likes to go to art museums alone. He says, when you go to an art museum, do this. Think about this. And he said, it's okay to look at a work of art and say, I like that, or I don't like that. He said, however, kind of like when you read, these are my words, not his. One thing I'm learning in academia when I'm reading these academic papers is if I find a paper that's kind of like almost on the nose, what I'm trying to figure out, if I go to the references at the end of the paper and then just read all those and like go get those papers and read all those, then I'll get a deeper understanding of everything. And one of the things that Ramsey tells me to do is he says, go consume this art, but also go consume the other works they made around that time. And then learn about the artist's life, and then learn about the artist's peers and what was happening in culture at the time and what was happening in those other artists' life. And it's just a beautiful way to consume art. And it's taught me that, oh, wow, there's the strokes of the paintbrush on the canvas, but there is a deeper way to consume this. I mean, before I go any further, I'd just like to see what you think about that, because I have a couple of things I'm going to ask you. So what are your thoughts on that?
It's not what I thought the book was going to be. I thought the book was going to be some sort of novel. So this went a really different direction than what I was expecting. I love the impulse. I think it was Virginia Woolf. Don't quote me on that. You know, the 20th century English author. The movie about her is called The Hours. Mrs. Dalloway. That was the name of the famous book that I associate with her. I'm sure she wrote more. I don't know. But Virginia Woolf, she said something to the effect of the right way to read a book is as if you were writing it yourself. Like if a book is good, the right way to consume it, to use the term we're using here, is to read it as though you were writing it yourself. Like put the care into it to consume it that was put into it to read it, and you really understand someone. I just didn't expect that to be sort of the point that Russ Ramsey, you said?
Correct.
Was going to be driving at with all of this. I thought it was going to be like a fun book or like a historical fiction kind of thing. And instead, he's using his relationship with Van Gogh to try to get the reader to think about really listening is what he's trying to help you do better.
Absolutely. It made me think about a thing. And one of the things we did in our little club that will have a better name in the future is we came to the meeting and we said, okay, well, we're going to start the meeting by everyone bringing their favorite work of art. Maybe not physically. I actually had prints of mine, so I took prints of mine. But like, be prepared to defend your favorite painting and why it's your favorite painting. I was very excited by this. It was something I suggested, and then everybody there was like, yeah, let's do that. Everybody had a very, very different painting for very different reasons.
What were they?
Okay. So one guy's was Salvador Dali, you know, the painting of the clocks that are melting.
Sure.
So he liked that.
Did he say why?
Yeah. He said it came from his, like his teenage years. He really enjoyed drawing. And the idea of the work is called The Persistence of Memory. He talked about how he just loved the surreal nature of it and how it's just so bizarre, and it really stimulated his brain in a really cool way, especially when he was a teenager. He really enjoyed it, and he went through that. And then we had a long discussion about the Dali Museum down, is it in Clearwater or St. Pete? Where is that? It's down there.
I don't know. The only place I've ever seen a Dali in the flesh is right before you go into the Sistine Chapel. They've got one on the wall in the modern art section.
Do they really?
The Vatican Museum.
What is it?
And it's the same motif, the melted clock kind of thing. I don't remember. I mean, it is explicitly religious art. Maybe having to do with John the Baptist or something. I don't know. I can't quite remember. It's just right there on the wall, and it stands out.
There's another one of the people. There's a painting called The Banjo Picker.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, no, The Banjo Lesson. Excuse me. The Banjo Lesson. It is a painting of an African-American. It's by Henry Tanner. It's a painting from 1893. It's an oil painting by an African-American artist, Henry Osawa Tanner. And it's two African-Americans playing a banjo. It's an older, gray-bearded man teaching a young boy how to play a banjo. The guy that said this was his favorite, he went into great detail around why this was important, because at this time, most art of African Americans was not portrayed in this very human way. So this was a really, really cool piece. And the guy also plays guitar. At least I think he plays guitar. He's certainly a musician. And he was talking about how interesting this was. I just thought it was beautiful. And I had never seen the paint. Have you ever seen, just look it up, Henry Osawa Tanner, The Banjo Lesson. If you'll look that up real quick.
Huh. This is not what I expected. The boy is in the old man, presumably his grandfather's lap. And it's almost like that Walk Off the Earth video where they played somebody that I used to know with like 5 people on one guitar. It's that kind of pose.
Uh-huh.
The kiddo, his form's not good. He's having trouble reaching over the top of the banjo. Yeah, this is really thoughtfully done. The old man's fingers that should be all brittle are relaxed and his hand posture is correct. You can tell he's trained from years of being able to come all the way around that neck, around the fretboard.
Mm-hmm.
The little fellow's clumsy, but you see the potential. There's a wood floor. Oh, and there's a cross in the foreground. That's interesting.
Where's the cross? I don't see the cross.
There's a cross on an urn or a jar in the foreground. It's definitely there. Huh. Yeah, that's beautiful.
I don't know if that cross is intentional or not. I see it. Yeah, it's a beautiful work of art. It's really cool. It's not what I expected.
There's a cross. It's on purpose.
Yeah, I thought that was a really, really interesting piece, and his reasons for it were really cool. Another guy, his favorite work of art was the Audubon books, the big bound books.
Oh, not like the place where you can drive fast in Germany, like the Society of looking at birds and animals, and right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, what is the name of that big book? There's a big book that was The Birds of America. It's actually the most expensive book that's ever been sold as one of the first editions. It's
really
Audubon went around drawing all the birds of North America, and he had a huge book. He put them in a huge book so he could make the birds life size. So it's like a collection of books. It's, ornithology. It's like almost scientific art, but at the same time, it's just gorgeous. Like all the art in it is just fantastic.
I could be mistaken, but when my kids and I went to visit Emily Grassley at the Field Museum, she took us back into the archives, and I think she showed us a few originals from those works.
I think you're right. I think I saw that as well. Yeah, it's gorgeous. There's one very, very thoughtful guy there, and I'm drawing a blank on what his painting was, and it's really bugging me. I just shot him a text to try to remember. Oh, wait, that's what oh, gosh, yes. Okay, he just replied. His was Monet's Haystacks. Have you seen Monet's Haystacks at the Museum of Art in Chicago?
I have, yeah.
His reasons for this being his favorite work of art was, without a doubt, the most thoughtful of the whole group. He said when he was a young boy, he went to Chicago. He lived in Chicago for a while, and he got to spend time in the museum. And the cool thing about Monet's Haystacks is it is a study in light. And what's so fascinating about this is the guy that's talking about this, I mean, he's a genius. He's a brilliant engineer, just absolutely brilliant. He double majored in engineering, and also he's like a concert pianist. I don't even know if I'm saying that correctly, but he's just one of these wicked smart people. We just sat by the fire and listened to him talk, and for 10, 15 minutes, he was explaining his love for these paintings.
Because it's a series,
yeah,
right? I mean, it's like all different seasons and everything.
Yeah. And what's so gorgeous about him is Monet was learning how to handle light, which is something Rembrandt was really, really good at. My friend went through this explanation, and we were just enthralled with his explanation because we were like, okay, we're in the presence of a smart man. You know what I mean? It was really beautiful. What was really interesting about that answer to me is I had seen those paintings in Chicago at the Art Museum a long time ago, and I thought about something else. I thought about how Monet signed the paintings. He signed the paintings in different color, but he chose the color based on the colors in the painting. Anyway, Monet's Haystacks. It's haystacks that are painted in different seasons and in different times of day to understand the light across the haystacks. What's really cool is you can have a favorite one of those. I think mine's the purple one.
I can't picture it. I don't know what the purple one means, but
look it up.
Yeah, I picture one that's in winter. It's white and gray, blue kind of themed, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not sophisticated enough to have a favorite off the top of my head.
Oh, whatever, man. Well, when I say the purple one, it's weird because it's not really purple. It just kind of feels purple. It's a really neat thing. So
it feels purple. Yeah. I don't know that I've ever heard that phrase before. That makes it a good day. I remember that.
Yeah.
What was yours?
Okay, mine was, and I've actually filmed a video about this. I just haven't released it yet. If you go to the Art Museum in Washington, D.C., there's a room with 4 really big paintings by Thomas Cole. It's a series of paintings that he did over many years in the 1840s called The Voyage of Life. I need to release this video on Smarter Every Day because I recorded it. I'm just like, this is so different than everything else I've done on Smarter Every Day, but I'm like, this is cool. I need to do it. But Thomas Cole was an artist that painted these huge murals, like huge. We're talking like 12 feet, maybe bigger. I don't know. They're gigantic. And imagine a river. There's 4 paintings altogether. There's childhood, youth, manhood, and old age. In the childhood painting, you see this young babe popping out of a cave on a boat on this river. And the boat is being guided by an angel, some spiritual being. There's flowers and fruits all in this garden. It's a lush, beautiful environment. You can see that it's dawn in the background, and he's coming out of this rocky crag, like out of this nothingness. And that's the first painting. That's childhood. And then you move to youth. And in youth, the individual, which was a baby, is now a teenager, a young boy, and he has taken the tiller or the rudder from the angel or the spiritual being, who's now on the shore watching him kind of float away. He's like got his hands up like, aha, like I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to go conquer the world. And you can see that the river's getting bigger, and there's this celestial palace out in the distance, and like everything is opportunity and wonder and positive and amazing. It's just really breathtaking to see this painting.
A quest.
Yeah, it's amazing. What'd you say?
A quest.
What does that mean?
He's embarking on a quest. He has a thing. There's a celestial palace off in the mist, off in the distance.
Yeah.
Well, he is imagining then this idealized goal and dream, and everything about the current needs to take him in that direction. He can achieve it. He can go there. He has a quest.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how I felt in my teenage years. Did you feel that way?
No, that came just a little bit later.
Did it?
Maybe around 20, I started to feel a bit more of that.
That's probably accurate.
Yeah, in my teenage years, I felt like I was living in a small town and the world was interesting. I was curious about everything and learning a lot, but I just didn't understand why people didn't like me. I just wanted to have friends. That was kind of all I thought about when I was, 12, 13, 14 years old. It was just sad. I could tell that socially I didn't get it, but I didn't know why I didn't get it. And I think that sort of throttled my dreaming and questing a little bit, that insecurity. And as that went away and I kind of found my footing as I got toward maybe 9th grade or driving age, then I started to think more about the young man's quest. And that probably took more form and shape for me around 19 or 20.
I think high school is a very difficult time because you start thinking about what other people think about you. I had a hard time in high school too. It was hard. Went to a new school. At some point I did feel this ambition and hopefulness and like I'm in control of the ship here. I felt that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the second.
Oh, yeah.
The second painting there. Youth is the name of that one. The third one is kind of how I feel now. This one is called Manhood. In this case, there is no rudder on the ship. It's gone. The river has turned into a waterfall that's moving towards rocks. And not a full-on waterfall, but like it's rapids. Rapids are right up ahead. There's rocky crags. The spiritual being is no longer on the shore, just kind of like right off to the side of the individual. It's kind of up in the heavens, looking down on the man. The man is in a desperate situation. He's in the boat. He's up on his knees. He's got his hands clasped, and he's looking up to the sky, almost in a praying motion, but it's kind of a desperate, like, holy cow, I'm no longer in control. Things are happening beyond my control, and I just need help. He's kind of overwhelmed by his circumstances, and they're kind of the circumstances of his own making. And so it's gorgeous. The celestial palace is no longer in the background. You can see the distant sea in the background, but there are no flowers. There's some kind of brambles, and the vegetation is a little more hostile, but the current is moving swiftly, and he's just trying to keep up.
What does the guy look like in the boat? Is he in peril? Is he upset?
He looks helpless. He's wearing a red robe. He's still pretty young. He looks like he's in his 40s. He's got a beard. He's got kind of long hair. I would say, past his ears, hair. One thing I didn't explain that I think is really neat is the front of the boat has this. What do you call the thing on the front of a boat? Like a mermaid on the front of the
prow.
What's it called? Prow.
Oh,
like the hood ornament. What do you call that?
Dang it! A masthead.
There you go. Yeah, the masthead.
Is that it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And so in every step along the way, there's a masthead, and the masthead is like an angelic being holding an hourglass. And when the baby came out, the hourglass was full. In youth, it's like a quarter of the way done. And here, in manhood, the hourglass is like 50-50. And I'd say the brightest part of the whole, I don't know, there's 3 bright spots in this painting of manhood. There's the spiritual being up in the clouds. Can't really tell what it is. There's what'd you call it? The prow of the boat? Is that the front of a boat? I don't know that name.
I think so. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't boat.
I don't know either. So that thing is bright, and then the distance is bright. The ocean. That's Manhood by Thomas Cole.
Do you feel like you're in turmoil and headed for a waterfall and rocks, and that there are no flowers in your life? I mean, that's kind of bleak.
No, I don't feel like I'm heading toward the rocks and I'm going to crash and be destroyed. But I do feel like at some point you have control of the rudder and you get to do things, but then you make decisions that kind of obligate you to things. At some point you're like, oh, I need to get up and go to work because I've got to make money, because I've got to feed people, or I've got to pay this mortgage that I got.
The alternative is far worse.
It is. It actually is. But
not being called upon at all, not being depended upon at all, not being invited to the battle at all. I mean, maybe that's insecure 13-year-old me values talking there that just wants to be liked, but I think you want those obligations, right?
I do. Yeah, I love them. They're great. You'll just have to look at the painting. The man doesn't look terrified, but I think it's the moment that he's turning away from his own self-reliance and he's starting to depend on God. There's a moment of clarity and realization. In the first 2 paintings, the baby is oblivious. The baby is like this naked little chunk, like, just like, I am alive.
That's what I said right when I came out.
I'm alive.
I'm Matt. I alive.
I am Groot. The second phase, the boy feels like he's in control, and he is to some extent. He gets to make decisions. He's discovering autonomy. And in the third stage, it's almost like the man's like, oh, I get it now. You were in control the whole time, God. I'm not. What are we doing here?
So that's the celestial being in your estimation?
I don't think it's God in the painting. I think it's a representation of God. There's also these dark-looking faces in the clouds. I don't know how to interpret that. There's like 3.
Can I pull these up? I mean, I'm trying to just let you describe it, but I'm really wanting to pull these up on my... No, I'm not going to. I will look at this when you're done.
Let me do one more first. Okay, the last one is called Old Age. And so in old age, the boat has made it to the sea. There is no hourglass at the head of the boat. It has fallen off. It's been beaten off by the rocks, I assume. The man is still wearing the red robe. He's seated in the boat. He's no longer clasping his hands in prayer. He's bald. He has he's got white locks of hair behind his head. He has a white beard. Looks like a wise man. He's got his hands up like he's released control, and he's looking at the celestial being who is right there on the boat as he enters the ocean. And up in the sky, there's another angel-like thing. And the man is like, it's like the one down at the boat is leading him to the one that's in the sky. And the light from the sky is shining directly on the boat. There are no more evil beings in the painting, in the sky or anything like that. The rocks, he's exiting the rocks. What's interesting about the painting is he's just kind of like surrendered himself. He kind of understands, and it's life, right? You got childhood, youth, manhood, old age, and clearly it's symbolic of death. One of the things that the book talks about, Van Gogh Has a Broken Heart, is there's a quote in there that art prepares you for death. And I was like, wow, that's a sentence. I just thought it was really interesting because I usually think of art as something that makes you happy and is colorful and flowerful and things like this. But he explains that a lot of good art is created out of suffering. He talks about Van Gogh's depression. and he had this, whatever it was, a manic episode or whatever, and he cuts his ear off, and it just explains all that. It really resonated with me because my favorite work of art is kind of this series. I thought it was really cool. I know we can go a couple different directions now. First of all, I know you want to look at the painting. I don't know if we should do that yet or not. I want to know what your favorite painting is, and if you have reasons for it. And it's okay if you don't have a favorite work of art, but I just think it's neat to have a favorite painting. Or we could just talk about that. I just want to open it up, see where you want to go, what direction you want to go.
I think my favorite work of art is that one where Calvin is peeing on an Oakland Raiders logo, because I just really don't like the Raiders.
Right, the one that you put on the back of a truck.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite. It prepares me for death. So I'm really grateful for that one.
Yeah.
No, can I change it? Can I still change it?
Yeah.
I have another one.
You can change it, yeah. I don't think memes prepare you for death. I think art prepares you for death.
I think art does prepare. Well, first of all, I agree with that sentiment. It had never occurred to me in my entire life. I know this is like the 5th time that I've told you this on microphones, but the final point of the syllabus in my first class of college on my first day, honors philosophy, sitting next to my would-be wife, who I had just met 10 minutes earlier. I mean, literally, I read this line I'm about to tell you on the syllabus within 10 minutes of meeting Camilla. This was a very impactful moment, obviously. The final point of objectives on the syllabus for honors philosophy, like, learn the ancient philosophers, was to prepare the student for death. It's a very weird thing to read when you are 18 years old and it's you're theoretically, everybody else is telling you you're preparing for your whole life. You still got your graduation commencement address ringing in your ears. Your whole life is ahead of you. And you go to college, and the first day they tell you, we're getting you ready to die. Now it's time for you to prepare to die. All right. That guy read poetry at my wedding, that professor. It stuck with me a lot. And I started putting it on the syllabi for a lot of my classes when I went and taught. Because I think he's right. Knowledge prepares you for death. There's courage and clarity that comes in listening to other people on the very deep water things of life. And a lot of that stuff cannot be quantified with analysis and detailed clinical writing. You're listening to Thomas Cole. That's his name, right? Thomas Cole?
Yeah, that's the painter.
Yeah, you're listening to him express to you all that he has listened to from all the people who've thought about the point of life and the passage of time and the effect that that has on us and things that are common to all of us. You listened carefully. You're still listening carefully to him after he listened carefully to others. First of all, that just super resonates with me, that idea that art prepares us for death. Great. Dark, but maybe not totally dark. I mean, the guy in the last painting you said, he didn't seem to think it was dark. If anything, the burden of the hourglass and the pressure of that buffer bar was no longer there, bothering him. Now he could fix his eyes on something that was more lasting. That's a powerful image.
Yeah.
But my favorite work of art, I think I have two, and that's kind of cheating. You mentioned one already. Hopper's famous work of art is Nighthawks. That, at least it was in Chicago when I saw it as well.
Yeah.
I love it. It makes me feel nostalgia for a thing I've never lived. I mean, I guess I lived in Chicago for 5 years, but I was never a city person in any kind of meaningful way.
People chilling out at a diner?
Yeah, that's the one. Okay, so you know the piece.
Yeah.
And, well, I don't know. Describe it.
Yeah, I knew it, but I pulled it up anyway. It kind of reminds me of the Seinfeld diner. You got a corner.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah,
you got people chilling out. I'm imagining they're drinking coffee and eating breakfast, but it's like 2 a.m. That's what I imagine it to be. But the color is really good. It's composed really well. It's got perspective in it. I just think it's really cool. Now that I look at it, I don't even see a door on the building. It just looks like a corner. But you can see the little
never thought about
coffee thermoses thing, things on the bar, and there's a guy working the bar. It's really cool. It reminds me a lot of the style of Norman Rockwell without the zoomed in look at the humanity of the people in the painting. It's more of a wide view. There's a whole chapter in Van Gogh Has a Broken Heart about Norman Rockwell as well, which is really cool because my wife and I actually have a Rockwell on the wall, like a print, obviously, but in our bedroom, we have a Norman Rockwell on the wall.
Which one?
It's called Marriage License.
Oh, I know it. Yeah.
Do you really? But anyway, tell me about Nighthawks.
Sure. Well, it's got the super famous color contrast. I mean, when you go to edit video and you do your color correction, you have that one slider that more or less warms the image or cools the image. And both the warm and the cool are in the same place. The city is very cool. The diner is very warm. And so you expect a Rockwellian scene in there with joy or maybe holiday cheer when you see that kind of contrast. But there's not joy inside. And I don't know if this is his point at all, but this is why I like the thing. It's a whole bunch of people who are in the most interesting place, the city, who have total freedom to be wherever they want. Because, I mean, curfews don't apply to them. They can go where they want, when they want to be there. And yet, no one seems to be thriving. Something is really missing from that picture. And that is warmth where there should be warmth in the image. And I told you, I thought a lot about, as a kid, being alone and give and take. And I watched people who were good at being in love and sharing love with people and having honesty with people. And maybe nobody knows how to pull that off when they're 12 or 13, but I was very cognizant of the fact that I did not know what I was doing. I just kept saying and doing dumb things. And I felt tremendous grief as a kid about not knowing what to do. Maybe I don't know what to do now. I feel like I get it a little better than I did when I was a kid. And that painting has resonated with me since early teenage years. And I think it's for that reason, trying to understand what the people in there are thinking, why they're in there, why it looks the way it does. And it's not something a good work of art.
Yeah.
You keep encountering it again and again over the course of your life. And it says new things and you connect with new things. I mean, maybe dude's just doing a still life. I mean, it's like, oh, that's a cool scene. I'm going to make a mental snapshot of that and paint it. Well, whether Hopper had meaning to it or not, I don't know. But the thing was compelling to him to paint because meaning was in there, whether he was thinking about the meaning or not. So I like that one. I have another one, but it doesn't matter. I've gone on too long on the one I already chose.
What's the other one?
Rembrandt's Prodigal Son.
Oh, yeah.
You know the one?
I think I do.
Yeah.
I've heard of it. I'm looking it up now. Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Okay, I know the one.
Look at his hands. Okay, let me explain it real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Luke 15 is the story. It's a chapter of the Bible that has 3 stories about lost things.
Yeah.
And they're all parables, so they're metaphors. They're stories that teach a theological truth. And the big one that everybody knows, in addition to the story of the lost coin that gets found and the lost sheep that gets found, the one everybody knows is the lost son who gets found. He's a rich guy's kid, and he tells his dad, I can't wait for you to die. Basically, give me my half of the inheritance right now. And then he goes and he blows it on stupid living with the stupidity of youth with his hand on the rudder, to use Cole's illustration. And it goes horribly, and eventually he's face down in a hog slop pit, and he's like, my dad's servants live better than I do. I got to go back, and I got to beg him to take me back. He prepares this whole speech, and he goes walking back to his dad's noble household in a moment that would be shocking to a first century audience. The dad has been watching for him the whole time, and he sees his kid way down the road. And the dad, I mean, basically the head of a household in that time is like the mayor of a town, and they're all small towns. It's a huge deal to be the head of a household. He does something shameful in front of all of his servants and household. He runs. It's just, it's an undignified thing to do. He runs down the road, and he meets this kid. Then the kid starts in on his prepared speech. He's like, Father, I've wronged you. I've sinned against you and against heaven. I'm not even worthy to be. And the dad embraces him, doesn't even let him finish the story. And the dad is signaling back down the road to his servants, like, bring my robe, put the ring back on his finger that symbolizes he's my son. He won't even hear the speech. No, I'm not receiving you back as a servant. I'm receiving you back as my son. The painting that Rembrandt does is the moment of restoration. The 2 hands of the dad, one is big and powerful and masculine on one shoulder, and the other is it's more gentle and feminine on the other shoulder. And smart art people have told me that this is somehow representative of the authority and power, but also gentleness of the Father, who of course represents God in the story. So I got a soft spot for that one too.
That's awesome. Another thing in the book that Russ Ramsey said is it's important to pick an artist and kind of follow them your whole life. And then you might be surprised. You might walk into an art gallery someday and he tells you how to do the art gallery thing. You might walk into an art gallery and find a piece that you've known about for a really long time. It's a good book. Van Gogh Has a Broken Heart by Russ Ramsey. I highly recommend it.
All right. Is Thomas Cole your artist? Is that who you're going to follow?
I don't know. I particularly like those individual paintings, but there's an artist named Andy Goldsworthy. He makes art in nature. I've tried to emulate his art in the past. He does a pretty interesting thing where he'll go out into the woods and he'll get colored leaves from a tree and he'll assemble them in a really cool pattern. He'll take a photo and he'll walk away. And he just lets it turn back over to nature. And he does that with stacking rocks and icicles and arranging pebbles. Like he does a lot of really, really cool stuff. And so Andy Goldsworthy, I have followed him for a long time. Also MC Escher, I like his stuff.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Can I make a closing presumptuous remark, and you can make it, I'll give you veto power on this. You can make it go away if you want to in the final edit of our conversation here.
Sure.
To the third chair, you can make art also. It feels like this is something for fancy people who are better than us and have talents and skills that we don't have. But if what you're saying, Destin, is true, that you're gleaning from this book, that art is listening, art is preparing for death, then everybody has potentially something to say. Dude, thanks for bringing this up. This is really fun. I particularly appreciate you walking me through those 4 paintings. I enjoyed that.
I loved it, man. I thought the book was good. I thought Russ Ramsey did a great job, and it taught me to engage with art in ways I never thought I was allowed to, and I really appreciate it, and I thought it was cool.
Good stuff.
Please let me know what the name of the book club needs to be.